What's up, Four Verts gang? Harrison Graham here with another episode. We are getting closer and closer to the 2025 NFL Draft. So it's time for another mock draft, and I thought I'd spice it up today. I thought we'd have some fun. I challenged myself. I got to do at least 10 trades in this mock. That's probably more than what's going to happen in the first round, but why not? Let's spice it up a little bit, mix it up. 10 trades in this mock. Let's go. All right, not trading from one because I just don't think it's going to happen. Cam Ward, he's going to be a Titan, barring something unforeseen. It seems like they've sort of left that door slightly cracked, like if some team just overwhelms them. Like if the Giants gave them 3 plus their next 2 first-round picks, maybe they would just have to take that because they still have a lot of roster building to do. But unless they get something like that, I think this is the pick. Certainly seems like Abdul Carter to the Browns is the heavy expectation at this point. With the lingering shoulder issue that caused him not to do a pro day, if the Browns aren't able to get a private workout with him, would they consider Travis Hunter? Is there a chance they circle back to Shedeur Sanders? Maybe, but for now, I do think Carter's the heavy favorite here. And I do think, while it could go either way, I think Travis Hunter would be the smarter pick for the Giants. They could go Shedeur. Ownership could pressure Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll into it, but I just don't think Shedeur is a top 5 caliber pick player. Now, I would take him in the first round of this draft. I think the Giants would like to have him, but if Carter or Hunter are there, they're just in a tier of their own in this draft. I think it would be foolish to pass on one of those 2 players unless it were Cam Ward who was available. That's worth the swing there, but I think in this situation, even though you don't have your long-term answer at quarterback, I think Travis Hunter would be the pick for me. What say you? Who should the Giants draft with that number 3 overall pick? Let us know in the comment section below. To me, it's Carter or Hunter. Whoever's there, I would take, unless Cam Ward in some mythical world ended up there. But to me, it's one of those 2 guys. Okay, trade alert. The first of 10 here on today's show. How about the 49ers moving up? They need a lot of work in the trenches, so they move up to 4 because I think New England in this scenario would love to trade back if both Carter and Hunter were back or gone, since they don't need a quarterback. So 49ers get the 4th pick. Patriots get 11, 43, and a 4th round pick from San Francisco as well. Niners have some extra draft capital this year, and they go up and get the best defensive tackle, in my opinion, in this draft, and that is Mason Graham. And if the Niners are eyeing Mason Graham, I do think you probably have to get ahead of Jacksonville. That's been a very popular mock pick to the Jags, Mason Graham to Jacksonville. So if they really love the player, if this scenario plays out on draft night where Carter and Hunter go 2-3 in New England, the tier of player dips a little bit, I could see them looking to trade back, especially since the Patriots, one of their stoutest positions is defensive tackle with the investment in Milton Williams and Christian Barmore being on the team. So I think this ends up being kind of a win-win scenario. Okay, and then now since Mason Graham is gone, the Jags look to trade back. Trade number 2, Bears move up to 5. They give up 10 and 39. Chicago would still have that other second-round pick from Carolina, still have a 3rd. And they go leapfrog the Raiders for Ashton Jeanty. A lot of Ashton Jeanty to Vegas buzz right now. I do wonder if Chicago would consider moving up to 5 for Jeanty if they only had to give up one of those second-round picks. It would kind of be the perfect ending for the Bears in kind of a weird way to that Carolina trade. It just kind of comes full circle where you use one of those second-round picks to trade up and go get a player they really like. I think they'd rather stay and pick at 10 and hope Jeanty or one of these other premier players gets there. But if they catch wind that Vegas is set on Jeanty, I wouldn't be shocked if they made this move. The Raiders select Armand Membou, who could be their pick anyway. It would kind of be the final piece to their offensive line. Their interior is pretty solid. Colton Miller, if he bounces back, he's been a good left tackle for a while. Membou's a plug-and-play right tackle who also has some versatility, so I think that would be a good fit for Vegas. Tyler Warren goes to the Jets at 7. There's been some buzz to that being the selection. I think they would also like Membou if he got there. They need a right tackle, but I don't think they'd go Will Campbell in this spot. I think they would go Tyler Warren at 7, the tight end out of Penn State, give Justin Fields another weapon, over the middle of the field. Okay, The Patriots now trade back up. So they move from 4 to 11 with San Francisco. Now they move up to 8 with Carolina. The Panthers get 11 and 69 in return, third-round pick to move down 3 spots. And then the Patriots, they go get an offensive lineman in Will Campbell. They could certainly take Will Campbell or Membou at 4, but this would be a better outcome for them if they can move back, collect net capital. Even if you have to move back up, they still get an extra second-round pick and move off of a third there. So it's a net win for New England. They get a player they would probably consider it for anyway in Will Campbell. Even if he doesn't end up being a long-term left tackle, you could plug and play him pretty much anywhere on the offensive line, which the Patriots need multiple starters there. All right, guys, going to make a deal for you guys. We've been flirting with the idea of doing a 3-round mock draft, but it's a lot of work for myself, my producer Cullen. If we get 100 new subscribers from this mock draft, 100 or more, we'll do a 3-rounder next week. We'll put in the work, we'll get it done, and bring that video to you guys. Probably be about a 30, 35-minute video. So if you are in on that, we'll do it. If not, no harm, no foul. We'll continue to do our 1 and occasional 2-round mocks between now and the NFL draft. So subscribe if you want a 3-rounder. Okay, Tetairoa McMillan goes to the Saints at 9. You know, the variance on where he could go feels all over the map. I could see him as high as Vegas to 6. I could see him, I don't know, could he fall to Denver at 20, something like that? I think the Saints here could take him, pair him with Chris Olave, and give Derek Carr 2 pretty good young receivers. Okay, this feels a little early, I'll admit, but Colston Loveland to the Jags. They need a tight end after losing Evan Ingram. A lot of people really like Loveland as a top 15-ish prospect. 10's a little rich for me. I think he's more like 15 to 20, but, you know, the top 2 tackles are gone. Tyler Warren's gone. They picked up extra capital, so I think it's okay to reach a little bit here and fill a spot that they desperately need. Get Trevor Lawrence a nice weapon there. Okay, Mike Green to Carolina at 11. Kind of like New England, right? Trading back and still getting a player you would consider where you were. I think Green could go 8 to the Panthers, but if they can move back, get an extra day 2 pick and still get him, that's a great outcome. He's a great fit in that 3-4 scheme. I've said this on record. I think he's the second best edge rusher in this draft after Abdul Carter, especially in 3-4 schemes. Obviously, he's got the sexual assault allegations that teams are going to heavily look into. He was upfront about those and is, you know, obviously his stance is that nothing happened there, but teams will heavily research that. And if teams feel comfortable, I think he's a top 15 player in this draft. Okay, at number 12, Dallas is going to trade back with Seattle. Dallas gets 18 and 52. Seattle gets 12 and 76. So basically, Seattle trades a second rounder to get a third back to move up 6 spots. And they go get Kelvin Banks Jr. Could Banks fall to 18? It's certainly possible, but with the top 2 tackles gone, the uncertainty around Josh Simmons with his knee issue, and there's been whispers about character as well, I think Banks, there's a good chance he kind of emerges as that clear third guy in this draft, and you may have to go up and get him. And Seattle really needs help in the trenches, so I could see them making a move like this. Okay, Will Johnson to the Dolphins. This has kind of become a popular mock draft pick across the board. You've seen a lot of national guys do this, and I agree. I think he's the best pure outside corner in this draft. He had a minor injury last year, cost him to miss about half the season, but I think you put him opposite of Jalen Ramsey. Within a couple of years, you move off Ramsey, and Johnson becomes your CB1. Okay, trade alert. The Giants make a big splash to get back into the first round. They trade 34, early second-round pick, 99, a compensatory third-round pick, and then a first-round pick next year. So that's a big investment to jump back into the top 15, and they pair the Colorado boys together. Shedeur Sanders ends up being a Giant. To me, this is more of where he really should go. Like, I would say Shedeur Sanders 10 years ago goes late round 1, early mid-second round, right? Well, with the QB tax, and especially in a draft that's not a great QB draft, he's going to go first round. But that doesn't mean you should take him top 3 just because it's a weak QB draft. You get Travis Hunter there, and then if you're Joe Shane, be opportunistic. If he slips outside of the top 10, start making calls. And if you can get him around this range in the mid-teens, I think that's more worthwhile for New York than taking him in the top 5 and passing on a generational talent. Okay, at number 15, James Pierce Jr., the edge out of Tennessee. He goes in this spot. He's been a player that there's been whispers about too. Is he a culture fit for an NFL locker room? Is he a hard worker? He's talented as hell. He had a great combine. He's had a couple of good years at Tennessee, but I think he's someone who could slip on draft night. Walter Nolan to the Cardinals. There's been some whispers about him as well. Not to the extent of James Pierce, but Arizona really could use an interior penetrator from the defensive line. They don't really have that. Nolan can do that. He's excellent against the run. I think he's got good pass rushing upside, so middle of the first round seems worthwhile to me. Okay, Denver's going to move up a few spots for this pick. They were at 20. They move up to 17. They get a 5th back as well. Trade a 3rd rounder to Cincinnati to get it done. So Bengals add a 3rd round pick, ship out a 5th round pick to drop 3 spots. And then Denver goes and gets Omarion Hampton. Because remember, Dallas is now on the clock at 18, who we'll get to in a second. Pittsburgh at 20, a couple of teams that really could take Hampton. So if he's still here at this point, I think if you're Denver, you really need a running back you can lean on in that offense. They don't really have that right now. I think Hampton's an instant 3-down back that Sean Payton would love. Okay, Dallas, instead of Hampton not being there, they go get their number 2 receiver. That is Matthew Golden to pair with CeeDee Lamb. Dallas has had an up-close look of him, obviously. He's been a riser in the draft process. I don't think his game tape equates to a 4.2 early 4.3 guy. I think he on tape is more of a 4.4 guy. Good speed, but he's not like your textbook burner on tape. He's more of like a glider. He's smooth. He gets in and out of breaks efficiently, but I don't think he's becoming Xavier Worthy type of player in the NFL. I think he's more of a fast technician than he is just a pure track guy, but I really like him. Good ball skills. Like I said, he separates and runs good routes. I think this is the type of range of where he should go. Okay, Tampa's going to trade back with the Rams, 7 spots. LA moves up to 19. We'll give them a 7th round pick as well just to get a pick back. But Bucks pick up 90, a 3rd round pick, and a 6th round pick. So Tampa adds a 3rd round pick to move down 7 spots, and then your classic 6th, 7th round pick swap there. So that is the difference in that trade. And LA takes advantage of a guy that could go top 10 sliding in this mock, Jahdae Barron. Versatile defensive back. He can play outside corner. You can play him in nickel. He can play some free safety for you if you need him to do that. I think he's the most versatile DB in terms of a round 1 player in this mock. You could throw Malachi Starks in that discussion as well, but Barron, I think, would help tremendously because, to me, the biggest weakness on the Rams roster is their secondary. Speaking of Malachi Starks, after moving back a few spots, Cincinnati gets arguably the best safety in the draft at number 20. Not the best athlete, didn't test off the charts, but great instincts, willing tackler, can play center field as well. Cincinnati just needs dudes on defense, and I think Malachi Starks can help provide that. Josh Simmons goes to Pittsburgh at 21. I like this fit because you don't have to rush him to play right away coming off that knee injury. Broderick Jones, it sounds like they want to give him a shot at left tackle this year. He has not been good at right tackle, but he played left side in college. They're hoping that works out. But if it doesn't, you're kind of hedging here, right? You get Simmons, a guy who has a chance to be a franchise left tackle in the NFL, but you don't have to force him into action right away. So they take a chance on him here. How about Jihad Campbell to the Chargers here? We've done a lot of trenches guys for LA because that's Jim Harbaugh's mantra, but Campbell's kind of a hybrid. You can, especially in a 3-4 scheme, which they run on defense. Blitzing off-ball linebacker, he can give you some snaps as edge. He had 5 sacks last year for Alabama. Freak athlete. I think Harbaugh would love this guy. 3-down linebacker who can do some different things. Okay, Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, goes to the Packers. Been some buzz there that they would like to add to that receiving room. Now, that becomes a pretty crowded room because they already have 4 guys in Watson, Dobbs, Jontavian Wicks, and Jaden Reed, so maybe they would trade someone during the draft and try to get an extra pick. But I do think they're trying to elevate that room. And while I don't think Egbuka is, like, especially as a rookie, viewed as someone who's going to be like a future high-end number 1, I do think he can be a really good number 2. He'll do the dirty stuff, block, all that type of thing. And then he's a really good route runner, especially out of the slot. Okay, another trade here. The Vikings don't have a ton of picks. I think they have 4 picks. They would certainly like to add more. Cleveland comes back into the first round, picks up 24. The Vikings get their second-round pick, which is the first pick of the second round, 33. A very valuable pick because then you have 24 hours to decide what you want to do with that pick. And then a third as well. I think this would be a huge win for Minnesota to get them an extra day 2 pick when they don't have a ton of capital right now. All right, speaking of trades, over, under 6.5 trades in round 1 this year. Type O for over, U for under. Typically, you're anywhere between like 4 and 8 or 9. I think last year was a lower year. I'd have to go back and look, but this is kind of middle of the pack. You know, you're typically, if you took the median of the last 10 drafts, you probably look at like 6 trades a year. So I'll go 6.5, O for over, U for under. Give us your thoughts on that. And the Browns, kind of like the Giants, they come into round 1 and get their quarterback. I don't love Jackson Dart, but there seems to be a lot of momentum there. Like, to me, 10 years ago, he goes in like the 3rd round, but he'll probably go at least 2nd and maybe even sneak into the 1st of a weaker draft. I do think he has a slightly stronger arm than Shedeur Sanders and is actually a slightly better athlete. He's also a much worse decision maker, in my opinion. He kind of plays like Cam Ward, in terms of being reckless sometimes, but he's not nearly as good, is kind of the best way I could describe him. But he's got physical tools that you like. 3 or 4 year starter in college as well. He played under Lane Kiffin, who's a smart offensive mind. So, if you're the Browns, you're probably a little desperate here to get it. You get the 5th year option as well. So I think he's an intriguing developmental guy. I don't think he should start as a rookie. So in this scenario, if I'm the Browns, I'm still trying to bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins. Okay, Gray Zabel goes to the Texans. I feel like every other mock draft, that's how this plays out. They got to add some pieces to that offensive line, especially on the interior. It just has to improve. Jalen Walker, the linebacker edge out of Georgia. I do these mocks, and I'm like, where do I have Jalen Walker go? I think he could go as high as like the Raiders or the Panthers in the top 10. He could also fall here. I think if you're Tampa, you're pretty excited about this because they've been mocked Jahad Campbell a bunch at 19. If you trade back to 26 and either still get Campbell or Walker, probably better suited as an off-ball linebacker, but can also be an edge, at least part-time, explosive athlete. I think that would be a big win for the Bucs. Nick Emenwari, the safety out of South Carolina, who had one of the best combines ever, also good production last year for the Gamecocks, can play both safety spots. You can play him in the box. Freak athlete, but not just that, a pretty good football player as well. I don't know if the same can be said about this guy, Shamar Stewart. Unreal athlete, right? I'm not sure he's a good football player. I think he's a fine football player. Like, if you were drafting him just based on the combination of production and film and all these things, he's probably like a 3rd-round pick. But I think he's decent against the run just because of his power. I don't think he has any idea what he's doing as a pass rusher. I really don't. So, at this point, I think it's worth the flyer if you're Detroit. Your roster's pretty set for the most part. Aiden Hutchinson on the other side, he might get a lot of one-on-ones, Shamar Stewart. So, at worst, he can at least be a rotational guy. But I do think him reaching his potential is pretty unlikely because there's a lot of data that suggests someone this athletic with this little production in college does not often translate. All right, trade alert once again. Chiefs are going to move up a couple of spots with the Commanders, send a 4th-round pick to Washington to do so. And Kansas City gets Kenneth Grant. I think this is just let's put him next to Chris Jones, all right? Like, that's pretty exciting. Chris Jones, probably the best interior pass rushing defensive tackle over the last few years. Kenneth Grant, an elite run stopper who also gives you a little wiggle at 330 pounds. Love that fit. They brought Mike Pennell back. He could be your backup nose tackle. That would be a pretty imposing defensive tackle group in Kansas City. Another one here, Derek Harmon. He goes to Buffalo. I think if you're the Bills, how many pass rushers, how many impactful defensive linemen can I get to try and beat the Chiefs? Because in those games, their defensive line has been neutralized. So I'm trying to add there if I'm the Bills, and I think Harmon at 30 is a pretty good value pick. Mykel Williams to the Commanders, kind of like Shamar Stewart, except not as athletic, at least in the testing, as I thought. Now, he's more productive than Stewart. I probably would take him over Stewart personally because we've seen more flashes with the pass rush tools. It's been inconsistent, but we've seen more of it than Stewart. But he's also a lesser athlete. I thought he was going to test off the charts, and he just kind of tested pretty good for his size. All right, final trade. Philly trades out of the first round. The Titans come back in, move up 3 spots from 35. They send a 5th-round pick to do it, and they get Cam Ward a weapon, Luther Burden. I actually love this fit because a lot of the modern-day NFL, especially when you have a young quarterback, do you have a weapon you can just throw the ball to and let him do work after the catch? To me, that's Luther Burden in a nutshell. Now, they tried that with Treylon Burks, and it was a disaster, but I think the difference is Burden's a much more fluid athlete. He's got better speed. I think he could be their kick returner as well. You can line him up in the backfield. So I like the idea. If you're going to go Cam Ward, get him a weapon. And in this case, you get him with the last pick of the first round, which secures the 5th-round option. All right, or the 5th-year option, excuse me. That's it for this mock draft. Shout out the player your favorite team drafted. So whatever team you are, if you're the Bills, shout out Derek Harmon in the comments, whatever it is. Let us know who your team got. And again, if we get 100 or more new subscribers from this mock draft, we'll do a full 3-round mock next week. We'll get producer Cullen is going to be in the lab cooking up these graphics. So if you want that to happen, cool. If not, no worries. We'll just stick to 1 and 2 rounders until the NFL draft. But the reason we asked for 100 or more subs because it just takes longer to do those longer drafts. So we got to make it worth our while. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Regardless, my name's Harrison Graham. We'll see you soon.